fair. You do it fair. You know, ask a question, let it go and answer it.
What's under your elbow?
That's what I'm going to be able to say.
Well, I've got all the names. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the forum for the primary candidates. My name is Bev Versteeg. I'm president of the League of Women Voters. League of Women Voters of Ottumwa would like to thank the City of Ottumwa for the use of the council chambers and providing televised coverage of this forum on GOTV. There's also other media people here too, and we thank you for showing up also. League would like to thank the candidates for their time and energy they spend seeking the opportunity to serve the public. League thanks the members of the audience for attending and actively participating in our democracy. If you have questions, like if somebody answers a question and something kind of jogs and you want to ask one, just raise your hand and we'll get you a card and you can write it down. The purpose of this forum is to allow voters to see and hear all the candidates seeking their party's nomination for Wapello County Supervisor and for State Representative in District 81. Lead forums help voters make informed decisions. We invited all candidates who faced opposition. Thus, Larry Sheets, State Representative, Kelly Spurgeon, Auditor, Mark Miller, Sheriff, Ken Rosenboom, State Senator, were not invited as they faced no opposition. Appearing this evening are 2 Republican candidates and 4 Democratic candidates for the nomination as county supervisor. Also appearing are 2 Democratic candidates for House District 81. Just briefly, I know that everybody here will know that. I'm hoping that maybe if somebody has a question, they can come up later and ask. The primary is simply a chance to kind of narrow down the field. And when you go to vote, you will have to declare either a Democrat or a Republican for the purposes of voting. Because there will be 2 separate ballots. So you will not be able to cross vote. So if you want, you know, a Democratic senator, but a Republican representative, you're going to have to make a choice. And that's just kind of the way it is, and I'm sorry. But it's called a closed primary. And also, I know that this will come up because I've worked the primaries before, presidential primaries or presidential election years. The president candidates will not be on here because we took care of that through the caucus. And so, you know, I always have to explain that to somebody. Well, why can't I vote for either so-and-so or so-and-so? Well, because you should have gotten out in January and done that. So the candidates are going to introduce themselves. They're going, and Jean is going to explain kind of how the time limits go. The names are in front. I know we had a little bit of a problem. We put in Hunt instead of a Lunt, but we have that corrected now. So, Jean, would you like to continue?
Sure. The candidates are familiar with this, but I'm going to review it for the listening audience and for those of you who are here. This is a candidate forum. It is not a debate. The candidates will not question each other. They will respond only to audience questions. And in order to help everyone hear clearly, please quiet your cell phone. When you entered the chamber, you were offered a pencil and a note card. Anyone here this evening may write a question. All questions must be submitted in writing and they must be signed. We will review the questions briefly just for clarity and redundancy. Questions on a similar topic from different people may be combined. Sonia Farrell, a league member, will read each question to the candidates twice. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement to tell you a little bit about themselves, to introduce themselves, tell you about themselves, and then explain their candidacy for supervisor. In the body of the forum, when they are answering questions, each of them will have a 1-minute time limit, and we do time them to respond to the questions. And then they will each be able to give a 2-minute wrap-up at the end of their portion of this forum. To ensure fairness and consistency, League provides a timer. Our timer for this evening is Carol Kelly. And she has a sign that she will put up, so both the candidates and the audience should be aware. So I believe we will start. The candidates are seated alphabetically, and the first candidate addressing us will be Connie Black.
Okay. Well, I'm Connie Black. I'm a lifelong resident of Wapello County. I worked 6 years at the Fairfield Glove Company in their accounts receivable area. Then I worked a year at Indian Hills in the accounts receivable at the business office. Then I went from there to John Deere Tumble Works, where I started in the mailroom. Then I was in production control, and I spent most of my years in industrial engineering and retired from there with 30 years. I'm married to Ron Black. I have 2 sons. They are both residents of Wapello County. We own property in Ottumwa, and we also own property in the rural area. So I'm familiar with the needs of the rural area. I've served on different committees over the years, and I feel I'm open-minded, and I would be able to reach agreements that would be to a benefit of the people of Wapello County. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Connie. Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, and thanks to the League, as always, for putting this event on for us. I am Brian Morgan. I'm 37 years old. I've lived here in Wapello County my entire life. I married a saint of a woman about 13 years ago, Jill, and she's blessed me with 3 kids. I have 2 daughters, Mallory 10, Nellie's 9, and then my boy, Charlie, is 7. So I have a definite interest in the future of Wapello County, and I definitely want to see the county grow and like everyone else, want to see our kids be able to stay here in the county. Coming up on 4 years ago, I bought a small business here in town, and we've owned and operated Morgan Corner Bar and Grill for that time, and gave us a great opportunity to really kind of venture out and help different things in town, using that and understanding some of the business climate that people go through in Wapello County as well. I served 4 years on Ottumwa City Council, 2010 to 2014. And in that time, the council taught me a lot about budgeting and working with different department heads and understanding that sometimes there are projects that have to be pushed back a little bit, and then having the opportunity to step up, and occasionally you're able to actually do something right and help someone out. And that feeling's one of the main reasons that I'm running for county supervisor. Served on several committees, Main Street Committee, Convention and Visitors Bureau Committee, Solid Waste Commission, which we'll have to serve on as that. Volunteered a lot of things like history walks and upstairs downtown, and spent about 15 years coaching Little League Baseball, so got to know a lot of people through stuff like that. So I believe I have the experience to take Mr. Siegel's spot on, to hopefully transition Mr. Siegel's spot onto Wapello County Supervisor. He's been tremendous with things like mental health and stuff, and we're really going to miss that leadership, and hopefully I can help bridge that gap.
Mr. Crooms?
Hi, my name is Mike Crooms. I've been a lifelong rural resident of Wapello County. Graduate from OHS in 1986. Been married to my lovely wife for approximately 19 years. 2 lovely children. I've never been into politics or public sector type events. I've always been self-employed. I've been self-employed myself for the last 18 years. Prior to that, I worked for my father's company, Grooms and Company Construction. My expertise, where I think I would be an advantage over somebody in the political business, is I bring the private sector into the public. My background's building, of course, so I know a lot about city or ordinances, codes, that kind of thing. And hopefully we can bring somebody in with some private sector knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lunt?
Thank you. My name is Josh Lunt, running for Wapello County Supervisor. I am not a lifelong resident of Wapello County. I was born in Wausau, Wisconsin, which makes me a huge Packer fan, by the way. I moved to Ottumwa with my family in the early 70s. My father worked for Wausau Homes, transferred down here when Wausau Homes had a facility out at the airport. I went to Angie Wilson grade school, and I attended 7th grade at Washington Junior High before it burnt down. I moved then when I was in 8th grade to Fremont. I went to Fremont Middle School and I went to Fremont High School. I graduated from Fremont High School. Not a lot of people can say that. I began work for Cargill in 1985 in Eddyville before they started up their facility. I worked for Cargill for 21 years in the maintenance and reliability field. I was instrumental in implementing what's called a reliability-centered maintenance program there and helped to manage a pretty significant maintenance budget. In 2007, I left Cargill after 21 years because that's long enough at one place. I went to work for a large consulting company that does maintenance and reliability consulting. I had an opportunity to travel all over North America and the world. A couple of the projects I did a large project for Army MedCom. Army MedCom stands for Army Medical Command. They're in charge of all of the Army hospitals in the United States. I helped to do 7 of those hospitals. Also did some work down on the Gulf Coast for a company called Boardwalk Pipeline. They are a large pipeline company that distributes natural gas all over the southern United States. So I have the experience to manage the budget. I live in rural Wapello County as well. I live in Green Township out by the Zion Church. I am quite familiar with the county, and I would appreciate the support if I can get it. And it looks to me like I'm out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Lunt. Mr. Miller?
My name is Dennis Miller. I have a famous name. I always tell people when they hear my name that I'm funnier, so you always know who I am. I'm born and raised Wapello County. Graduated from Ottumwa High School and also graduated from William Penn in 1989 with a degree in accounting and a degree in business management. I've owned and started several businesses. One is a music store in Oskaloosa, which was back in the 80s. Unfortunately, the 20-plus inflation interest kind of took care of that business. It's just hard to sell things on credit anyway. I also opened a business with vocational rehabilitation where I would do job searching, find jobs in the community for their clients, worked with the managers, informed them of the operation, went in, learned the job, and taught the people that needed help, and served as liaison between management and the clients. I've prepared individual tax returns in the past, served as treasurer for several organizations. Right now, presently, I'm an insurance salesman, sell all kinds of insurance, so I know that industry, as well as serving a small Iowa Methodist church. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schimmelfilling?
Well, my name is Dale Schimmelfinning. I've lived in Wapello County for 32 plus years. I've been married to my wife for 32 years. We've always lived on the family farm and worked it. Also in that 32 years, I spent working in town of Ottumwa at Target stores. I worked for Target Corporation in the maintenance field of it. I traveled the state and the Midwest for Target, closing old stores where we built new stores, and then also helped the opening. I I'm a farmer, and plus I went and did some other things. Entrepreneurship in town, went in partnerships on a restaurant, soon to be 2 restaurants, I hope. I'm very involved with the businesses and all the stuff that goes with that in Ottumwa. One of the things, the reason why I'm running is one of the main things is for infrastructure of Ottumwa, to bring industry, jobs to Ottumwa. The other thing that I want to address is the safety and well-being of the citizens of Wapello County. Plus, I also want to reach out to all the volunteers. I think probably everybody that's up here has volunteered for something in Wapello County, and I think that's real great. And I'd also like to say thanks for the Women's League of Voters for putting this together, and I hope to be your county supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the questions.
All right. I apologize from the get-go if I mispronounce a name. So for the candidates for County Board of Supervisors, do you believe as a public official that you need to be fiscally responsible in your personal life by keeping your taxes paid, not having judgments against you, and follow the laws of the state of Iowa? This question was submitted by Roberta Neff. I will repeat it one more time. Do you believe as a public official you need to be fiscally responsible in your personal life by keeping your taxes paid, not having judgments against you, and following the laws of the state of Iowa?
Mr. Morgan, you may begin.
Yeah, I think that's probably imperative to, if you're going to spend other people's money, hopefully you can manage your money accordingly. So, yeah, I would say it would probably be a plus if you had your taxes paid and didn't have any judgments against you. So, yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes, the answer is yes. You have to be fiscally responsible on your personal level in order to move on to the public level. And abiding by the state laws and regulations, I think that's just a given. My answer would be yes also.
Mr. Lund?
I think that's a really good question, and obviously the answer is yes, but I would go so far as to say I think it just has to do with public officials. I think everyone in this room and everyone in the county has a responsibility to pay their taxes, not have judgments against them, and follow the laws of the state.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, it's just, everybody else is right. It's just a given. You have to be morally correct in what you do. You know, if people are going to follow you and put their trust in you, you just have to be responsible to the state, to the county, and federal level as well. Thank you.
Mr. Schimmelfilling?
Well, so far it's unanimous. I agree. Yes, you should, because not only for your own well-being to pay your taxes, to keep a roof over your head and feed your family, that's just all part of it. The answer is yes.
Okay. Connie?
I agree with the gentleman here. I do think you should be a role model, especially if you're going to be in the eyes of the county. You should be a role model for them. You should keep your taxes up. You should go by the laws. And I also want to be a role model for my family to make sure that they are up on their taxes and they follow all the laws of the state.
All right, the next question is, what improvements do you plan to make and how will you accomplish any changes? This was asked by Sandy Billings. Again, what improvements do you plan to make and how will you accomplish any changes?
Begin with Mr. Grooms.
My first thing I would look into is the condition of the county roads. The rock that we're using, the bridges need to be repaired. Several people have approached me personally and said they complain about their gravel roads. I live on 8 miles of gravel road. My truck looks terrible all the time. And I think that's our number one concern. It's about half of our budget is secondary roads. And I think we should spend more time on doing that. How I would go about it is I would learn and understand the grading of rock, if there's new technology out there. Obviously, over the last 30 years, we've had some changes in the technology. And another thing I'd like to do is bring more industry to this area. How we would go about that, codes and regulations, there's a lot of options we got to look into there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lund?
Thank you. Primarily, I'm looking at sustainable economic growth. I think sustainable economic growth in Wapello County is primary importance. With that comes better jobs. With that comes a larger tax base. With that larger tax base, we then can do more things, including the roads and everything else. I'm not just going to work on getting industry to locate in Wapello County. I'm actually going to accomplish it. I have some contacts with some pretty large corporations. In the past, we have had some issues bringing industry into Wapello County. Therefore, industry went to adjacent counties. I think we need to get past that and bring some economic growth to Wapello County. Because like I said, with that comes more tax base, better jobs, raises property values. Everything that goes along with economic growth is pretty important.
Mr. Miller?
Before I answer the question, I should have started with this, but everybody looks at me and wonders, I'm not sick. I've been on a wheelchair for 40 years. My voice is this way because I was in an auto wreck in 77, and during open heart surgery, they cut one of my vocal cords nerves. So my voice is always this way. So it's hard to hear me, but I'm sorry. Hopefully the microphone works. But we need to attract businesses to Ottumwa, to Wapello County. That's just a given. I mean, Ottumwa was working pretty hard at it. They were remodeling the facades on one of the old businesses. We need to make sure everything is attractive, maybe tax abatements. We need to work on maybe who's going to work in those particular factories. I know you can throw rocks at me if you want to, but I don't believe in everybody having to be a union member to get a job in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schimmelfelling?
Well, I agree with so far what I've heard, and it all sounds good, but infrastructure is one of the things that covers the rock roads, also the paved roads. One of the things that I seen recently, and I posed this question to the state guys that were there, they were working on a bridge just west of Ottumwa. The state of Iowa has owned that ground since the 70s. So we put in a temporary bridge to fix the other bridge, replace it, but we're putting a 2-lane bridge in there. Why did we do that? We should have had, the ground was bought a long time ago. There should have been a permanent bridge put in and another permanent bridge put in, all the way to 35. Try to get that highway in. You know, as they're doing it, that saves a lot of money. So in that case, if I knew that was coming up and I was county supervisor, I would have reached out to the state, and that would have been one of the things that probably should have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Black?
Okay. Well, I'm going to be kind of repetitious on this. The infrastructure is a big thing, I think. We need to look into the gravel and the maintaining of the roads, and there's some of the older bridges that need a little attention. And also, I think we need to work at bringing in more industry, but I think we need to work with the industry we have here. If there's things that we could help them to make them grow, that brings in more tax money to be in the budget. I think that we need to look at all this, and I think we need to look at our sheriff's department, because if we have safety, good protection, then that's going to encourage industry to come in. So that's another thing that we need to think about.
Mr. Morgan?
Well, I think jobs and infrastructure is pretty overwhelming with everything. In our time on council, that's one thing with the roads in the city of Ottumwa. Believe it or not, some people thought they were unacceptable. I still haven't found that elusive pothole that has been complained about, but I think during our time, we put about 5 times more money into roads than has ever been put in by another council. continuing that in the county, we have the fuel tax that's coming to us. I believe it's about $450,000 to be able to not just put new rock on roads, but restructure the roads, crown the roads, clean the ditches, and make it to where you put rock on the road once a year and save us a lot of time and money throughout. As far as jobs with it, I'd love to see maybe the county get a little more involved with regional development, working with our state representatives in the Senate and in the House, and actually going out and actively recruiting these jobs to come to our area.
All right. The next question, the person who submitted 3 questions, so I'm going to combine 2 of them, and if we still have time, I will come back to the 3rd one after the rest. Recently, Wapello County supervisors were asked to give money to the Downtown Ottumwa Facelift Program. I live outside of Ottumwa. I cannot vote in Ottumwa elections and have no representation in the city of Ottumwa. Isn't that taxation without representation? And then the follow-up question, it seems Wapello County supervisors are constantly asked for money. What would you do to save Wapello County taxpayer money? These questions were submitted by Denny Swaim, and I will repeat the questions. In the project with the facelift program, isn't that taxation without representation for the city of Ottumwa? And what would you do to save Wapello County taxpayer money?
We will begin with Mr. Lunt.
Answering the first question, no, that is not taxation without representation. Because just because you aren't able to vote for something or choose not to vote for something or are not in that district doesn't affect you. I live in Wapello County, so I'm not allowed to vote for a city council member. However, the city council still affects me indirectly, but that's okay. And the second question, could you repeat it? I'm sorry, they were long.
The second one, it seems that Wapello County supervisors are constantly asked for money. What would you do to save Wapello County taxpayer money?
They are asked continually for donations or money for different organizations, and it's the responsibility and role of the supervisors to use discretion on who they give money to and who they don't give money to. I think they currently do a pretty good job. Wapello County doesn't have a tremendous amount of debt, and they manage the money fiscally responsibly, and they do a pretty good job of that. How I would save taxpayer money, there is discretionary spending that you can limit, but there are also fixed things in the budget that you cannot control. So the discretionary spending is about the only thing that you have direct control over to save money.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Well, the answer to the first question is I sympathize with you. I live in the county too. I feel that I should have a vote in everything that happens in the county, including the city. That's just my personal opinion. As far as saving money, we need to scrutinize the different aspects of the budget. It's just like with any either federal or state budget, there's always places in there to save money if you have the time to look. And one way I would say to save money is I'd keep the gravel on the road instead of in the ditches. And the money that's coming in for the fuel, we won't see that for a couple of years. It all went to Highway 20 in the east of the state just to get a few votes to get it passed. Highway 63 is slated in a few years to be redone with that money. Thank you.
Mr. Schimmelfennig?
Well, to answer the first part, and I understand that very much frustration. Giving money to a city or a town that's in the county is the supervisor's responsibility to, that's why there's 3 of them, so they can openly engage on what monies go where. And I think that that's up to those 3 at that time with the taxpayers backing them and everybody's opinion of it. The second question was,
How do you plan to save Wapello County taxpayer money?
gosh, I'll tell you what, as a taxpayer, it'd be great to just have your property taxes lessened rather than go up would be a great idea. The budgeting in Wapello County, again, being fiscal responsible, knowing what's going on in the county, listening to people and talking to your peers in the county, the workers, the volunteers, all of them. Thank you.
Mrs. Black?
I'm sorry, could I hear the first question again?
Sure. Recently, Wapello County supervisors were asked to give money to the Downtown Ottumwa Facelift Program. I live outside Ottumwa and cannot vote in Ottumwa elections and have no representation in the city of Ottumwa. Isn't that taxation without representation?
I don't think it's really taxation without representation. They're trying to do a betterment for the county as a whole, but there are some times we need to look at what is best for the county. And I'm sure that the supervisors are going to look at the county as a whole, and there's fixed budgets, so that money has to go where it is allotted, and there's just a certain amount that can be used for discretional items. And I hope that we take and look at everything and decide what is best for the county as a whole. Not have like little favorite things that we want done. What I would do the second question is what would I do to save?
Wapello County taxpayer money.
Well, I think we need to very strongly look at our budget, check it, make sure that we're prioritizing it right. And I think that, again, infrastructure is a big thing, and to everyone. I might as well just say the roads. But we need to look at maintaining it. It needs to be properly maintained, and then the gravel put on. We need to bring the roads in so that they're not as much gravel needed. We can get by with a lot of things if we just look at it and take a broader view of things. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Well, the property tax thing, here's the kind of the funny thing with it. If you live in the city of Ottumwa, you still pay county taxes. So you're in the county, you're paying those taxes with it. So part of the money that's being spent by the supervisors is coming from people that live in the city limits of Wapello County or Eldon or Blakesburg or Chillicothe or Eddyville, wherever it may be. So with the same side of it, as far as not being able to vote with it, if you live in the county, you're not subject to city property taxes. So therefore, I hate saying it like this, but it's kind of a pay-to-play thing. If you pay property taxes in the city, you vote for city people. If you pay them in the county, you vote for county people with it. So no, I don't feel it's taxation without representation. You just to see how the property taxes work in town and how they're figured. How to save money. That minute goes fast. You know that? I think the supervisors do a great job with it. I think the things that they throw money at or into, I hate saying it like that, but is worthwhile things. I think it's things they take time with and look on. The Indian Hills Incubator or the money going to Ragbri, it's going to be a great boom for all of Wapello County. So I think they do a great job with that now.
Thank you. Mr. Grooms?
I don't think there was taxation without representation on that first question. I mean, that's pretty unanimous. The second part is the county supervisors have done a wonderful job of spending the money that they have. The problem is we need more of it sometimes. And bringing new industries, new businesses to Wapello County is a key thing for the future. And that's more important than where they can save it. There's only so much money to go around. If we had more money to go around, it's easier to dispose of, Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. What do you feel is most important function of the position you are running for? This was asked by Nick Davis of KBIZ Radio. Again, what do you feel is the most important function of the position that you are running for?
We will begin with Mr. Miller.
Well, think it's kind of twofold. First thing, you have to listen to the people. What do they want? What are their problems? Have an open door. And the second thing is being the fiscal responsibility of spending that tax money that they trust you with. So you have to earn their trust. And you can save money, or you can, there's other ways to do that, like keeping the money within the county. If you're going to let a contract, try to keep it here. They say if you spend $1, it goes around 7 times. It brings in people, and they spend money. They live here, they pay taxes. You just have to earn the trust of the people. Thank you.
Can you repeat it one more time?
What do you feel is the most important function of the position you're running for?
Probably the most important function for being county supervisor is the mouthpiece for the citizens of Wapello County, the taxpayers, the wealthy, the poor. It's just endless. You'll end up being the mouthpiece for Wapello County. You can take that to state to help Wapello County. You could take it to industries. You could take it for the infrastructure of Wapello County so we can get those industries to create the jobs. It's a lot of reaching out. It really is. It's just listening to the people of Wapello County and doing what they want done. If the fiscal responsibility is there, if the money is there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Black?
I think one of the main functions is to remember that I, or the supervisors, are working, are a role model for the Wapello County people. We need to take their best interest in mind, plan to do the things that they need done, that can be done, that are within our budget, within our power, and that are actually good for the county. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Well, I think budgeting is a huge part of it. As one of the other candidates had hit on, the debt load of the county is practically nil. And I think to continue that and knowing how to work a budget and making sure we're not cutting essential services like things in the sheriff department or our infrastructure needs, things along those lines. But, continuing that trend of the responsibility of the budget. But I also think, as mouthpiece was said, I think for the citizens of Wapello County, but maybe to our state legislators, I touched on with, different things like mental health. And, there's a pretty good list of things that the county deals with that, are sanctioned by the state or required by the state, be it mental health, Soap Creek watershed projects that I know Mr. Parker's on. I think there's just a lot of that being really involved in the different boards and commissions that you're on and making sure that you're being responsible to the citizens of Wapello County.
Thank you. Mr. Grooms?
Question one more time.
What do you feel is the most important function of the position you are running for?
It's obvious as a county supervisor, you want to represent the people to the best of your ability. Nobody on this committee, the candidates yet, have brought up the future. I think the future of Wapello County is probably the most important thing. How do we get to where we want to be over the next 5, 10, 20 years? What's it going to take to get there? Are we headed in the right direction now? Fiscal responsibilities, obviously, number one. What are our goals and how do we achieve them? And I think that's probably the most important thing as a county supervisor.
Thank you. Mr. Lunt?
I think the most important function of a county supervisor is the fact that you are a public servant elected by the people of Wapello County and you represent them. I think you need to conduct yourself in a professional way. I think you need to provide leadership to the county. And like Mr. Grooms said, I think we need to not get caught up in the day-to-day minutia that we normally do and put a plan together of where we want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, and then start to implement that plan.
All right. The next question. Would you support adding sheriff deputies to the department? If so, what funding source would you use to do this? And if not, why not? This was asked by Danielle Weller. The question again, would you support adding sheriff deputies to the department? If so, what funding source would you use to do this? And if not, why?
We will begin with Mr. Schimmelfennig.
And the answer is working, you'd want to work with the sheriff's office wholeheartedly. And I've already, somebody already brought to my attention or asked me that question. And yes, I think the sheriff's office might need some more help, some more support, more deputies, maybe better equipment. And that's a long reach. And how would you come up with the money for that? Well, obviously, looking at the budget, you'd have to take that in effect, and there may have to be some cuts somewhere to do so. But also, one of the things, when you bring up the sheriff's office, you're also talking about the rural fire departments and their needs and the people, I would say yes, if the money's there, or we can come up with the money. I would say yes. Add the sheriff deputy and what equipment we need. Thank you.
Connie? Mrs. Black?
Yes, I agree that we need to look at adding another deputy. If we look back, I know there was a study done in years past where we were 99th in population in the counties. But I'm sorry, I'm getting myself confused here. We were 20th as far as population, but then we were like 99th as far as having the staff to cover the area. Now that has improved some. It'd be maybe, the lower 90s now, I don't know. But I think that there is need for another deputy sheriff, or there is more staff, needs to be more staffing. And I think what we have do a wonderful job. But as far as where it would come from in the budget, this would have to be something that would be reviewed to see where we could cut, what we could maybe shift around a little bit. This is something that would just have to be studied and worked with. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Absolutely. I think the sheriff department is, the study that she had just thrown out there is 100% right. And I don't think it's actually improved all that much. I think it's one of the responsible things that you start budgeting a little bit at a time. You don't know what the backfill is going to be with commercial tax abatement, everything, the state. But I think it's definitely one of those to work at. We had a lot of success in Ottumwa with working with different COP grants, maybe where they would pay half the salary over a 5-year time, or pay their training, different things like that. I think it's some issues, some things like that we could definitely look at through grant opportunities, at least to get deputies hired, get them staffed for now, and see which way to go. I agree. I think the equipment, I think there's quite a bit of things, but it's I'm 100% for it, but it's just got to be done responsibly and maybe over a little bit of time.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes, it's the county supervisor's job to work directly with the sheriff's department. Get the money they need. How we get it through grant money, we could move it around maybe, whatever they need. The county's very poor right now, and with poverty comes crime. The more crime, the more policing we need, or sheriff's department, should I say. And I think it's a big deal in Wapello County. I think they're shorthanded and they're begging for help, and I think somebody should help them.
Mr. Lund?
Yeah, I also agree with everyone. I believe that that is a decision. Sheriff's Department needs to determine whether they need more deputies or not. I think they've determined that they need them, and they've went to the county, and the county trying to find the funding sources for the additional resources that the Sheriff's Department needs. Along with another person also comes more equipment and many other things. So it's a pretty large expenditure, and it's not just a one-time expense. If you hire more deputies, you have to pay them every month, every year from now on. So it is a pretty good size expenditure. One of the things that's unique about the supervisors versus the city council is that the board of supervisors is responsible for the sheriff's department's budget. However, the sheriff is an elected official as well and does not work for the board of supervisors. So they have to work in conjunction with one another to accomplish that goal. So yes, if they need more deputies, we need to find a way to fund that.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, we've heard a lot of good probable answers. And just to be honest with you, I would not want to make any commitment to anything I would say until I have further time to look into it. So thank you.
We've reached the part of the forum where each of the candidates will have the opportunity in a 2-minute closing statement. By the luck of the draw, we begin again with Mrs. Black.
Well, again, I want to thank the League of Women's Voters for having this forum. And I just want to say that as a lifelong member of Wapello County, I really do care about the people here, and I would like to see the county prosper as much as it could. I'm honest, I'm open-minded, I'm willing to listen, but don't ask my kids about that, but I am willing to listen. And I'd like to serve the Wapello County and help the people of Wapello County, and I really would like to see more industry come into our area. And one of the ways to do that is to improve our county, improve our city, our roads, make it more appetizing to them, we might say, or appealing to have them come into the area. And then I just again want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and thank you very much for this forum.
Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, and again, thank you. I believe I have the experience right now to go into the supervisor job, but not just to go in and be a person that sits in the chair. My time, I was never had a problem standing up for something or voting no against something if I didn't feel it was right. You know, one of the things that I'm most proud of in my time, if anyone living in Ottumwa, if you open up your water bill right now, it could be about 40% higher on your sewer rate. But there was one little discrepancy we had, and we ended up keeping that out for about 2 years. So that's something that I'm very proud of. I don't mind doing my homework. I enjoy going to the commission and the committee meetings, volunteering, being active, going to towns like Eldon and seeing what we could do to help them out. They're interested in becoming a Main Street community, things that I have a background with it. And you know, as Mr. Grooms had mentioned earlier, as far as the future of Ottumwa, you know, I said it 7 years ago on council with it. You know, having 3 kids, 10 years old and under, I get to look the future of Wapello County in the eyes every day, and I want to be able to see them here when they're 20 years old, 24 years old, 28 years old. And I think going after industry is great, but I also think we need to start looking at different avenues like Walmart, Google, tech things that we could really get in with Indian Hills, become a partner, which I think Wapello County does a great job with that, but continue that partnership with Indian Hills and really start focusing on some of the white collar jobs as well. Because if you look at communities around the state, around the country that's growing, your West Des Moines or your Iowa cities, your Waterloos, Vermilion, South Dakota, it's the outside of the box stuff, the living wage jobs that we need to really focus on. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your vote next Tuesday.
Thank you. Mr. Grooms?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for this forum. It's been an experience for me, not coming from the public sector. The future is everything in Wapello County. We have an aging community. We need to draw in industries. We need to keep local kids local. Brian was right. I mean, everything, too many people leave Ottumwa, too many good people. What are we going to do to keep them here? Me coming from the private sector, hopefully I would bring an edge to the existing Board of Supervisors. which would help lead us that direction. And I would like to thank everybody for coming, and go vote Tuesday.
Thank you. Mr. Lunt?
Thank you very much. I would also want to thank the League of Women for having this. It's been really great. I want to bring economic growth, sustainable economic growth to Wapello County. It's not just a statement. I have a plan on how to do it. I've worked in industry since I was 19 years old. I run a small business here in Wapello County. I work at industry sites throughout the state of Iowa. I have a vested interest in my business to make sure economic growth happens, and I have a plan on how to do that. I also plan on providing professionalism and leadership to the Board of Wapello County Supervisors. I think that's important. If we want to go sell ourselves as a county to Fortune 500 companies, we have to be professional about it, and we have to have a plan in place on how to do it. To my knowledge, some of these companies are not ringing the phone off the hook wanting to locate here. We have to go find them, and we have to have a plan on how to do that. I am not a politician. This is not a stepping stone or the next step for my lifelong political career. This is something I chose to do, and we'll see how it goes. I'd appreciate everyone's vote next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I probably come into this more on the financial side of things. My background is in business, accounting. I talked about looking for the places in the budget to save money. We have a pretty sizable budget. Want to make sure that the quality of life for our older citizens is kept at the same level that they want to be kept at. Our age in this county is growing. One thing I wanted to touch on is the county home. The county home went through a problem a few years ago. We now have insurance to fix that problem of $230-some thousand, so we can give it away. Why not recoup some? I like the 4-H as well as anybody, but why not the county recoup the money? If people want to give to the 4-H, that would be upon themselves. I wanted to take you back a little bit. Shows my age, probably. Back in the 60s, remember Christmas? You'd go downtown, and you couldn't hardly walk down the streets. When the snow was falling, people were lapping. You heard the Salvation Army bell ringing, and people were lapping and singing. You go to the Sears Farm Store, toys in the window, just like candy to a kid. Stood there and watched the trains go around. The pet store, Earl May's, was downtown. And you go in and smell the cedar and pet the puppies. Remember Lumber Bakery? My dad worked there as drove a bread truck. How many people drove over the Wapello Street Bridge on the way to work? Makes you hungry just going over it. It just brings it back a memory. You wouldn't want to go inside because it didn't smell the same. The yeast smell wasn't good. But that's what we need. Someone's working on it. They're trying to bring the downtown back a little bit. But that's what we need for Ottumwa. We need that homey feeling. We want people to feel like they're welcome. Tourism, if nothing else. We need people, we need business in this town. I thank everybody for coming out and allowing me to be here. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, people. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Schimmelfelling?
Okay, I'll make it real brief, being we're after 8 o'clock. I'd like to thank the Women's League of Voters for setting up this forum. I thought it was terrific, and citizens here and the questions they had, concerns of Wapello County, I really do thank you for that. One of the things that, again, no matter, to bring that industry to Wapello County, we do gotta do the infrastructure here. And by that, you may have to reach out state, federal, or even counties around us. One of the things I said earlier was about a bridge west of Ottumwa. Why has not the state put in the 4-lane highway of the ground they own from here to Osceola, 235? The other thing I don't understand, and I'm pretty sure all the other counties would probably fall in line that are along that path. Number one is Hy-Vee in Sheridan. Their trucks are running on 2-lane highways. Walmart coming through here on 2-lane highways. That's all part of it. First, we got to do the infrastructure. If we have the fiscal responsibility in the budget to help some of that. We may not. That's why we got to reach out to our state representatives, even our own governor, if need be. I think it would be great if we got the infrastructure first and then reached out for the industries to come to town. I think they would be more willing to come to town if we had the infrastructure built up real good, including the county roads. And the other thing is, you know, a lot of that infrastructure is the safety and well-being of the citizens of Wapello County and all that stuff. Seems like lately there's, you know, people driving down the road and accidents happen. But I just want everybody to be safe in Wapello County while they're driving down the roads. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates who appeared this evening, and especially to all of you in the who came to hear them and to ask questions of them. We will take a brief break while these folks exit, and the candidates for House seat District 81 will come forward. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I wish you well in your campaign.
What's that?
We will resume this portion of the forum. We will begin, the format will be as the same. We will be in, excuse me, these candidates are seeking to serve as our state representative. We are in House District 81. And we will start alphabetically. They will make a 2-minute opening statement, and we'll start with Mary Gaskell.
Thank you. I am State Representative Mary Gaskell, and I have served for 14 years at the State House. I served 16 years as county auditor. I'm a mother of 4 children and 7 grandchildren, and all of my children live in Iowa and 2 of them in Ottumwa, and most of my grandchildren are here. So I'm really family orientated and enjoy that part of my life. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and applaud them for their efforts to be nonpartisan and biased. I thank you very much for that. In full disclosure, I am a member of the League of Women Voters. I have been for a number of years. I have no idea how long. Okay, as county auditor, I was county auditor for 16 years before and then I retired from that and then ran for state representative a couple of years later. As a county auditor, that included being commissioner of elections, clerk to the board of supervisors. I worked with payroll and claims to be paid, real estate transfers and budgets, and all of those were great. I also worked with township clerks and trustees and school officials and city officials, so I had a really broad idea of what was going on in the county when I ran for state representative, and it was a really good training field, particularly in budgets. And I also serve on the local government committee as a state representative and have been a ranking member there and chair of the local government committee. And I've served as, I serve on the Aging Commission, and I plan to serve on the Aging Commission again. That's really something that I'm interested in at the State House. And thank you for the opportunity for this.
Thank you. Mr. Weller?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for allowing Mary and I to participate in the forum tonight. I was born and raised in Ottumwa, 38 years old. I am married to Danielle Weller, and I have 1 child, Dawson. He's just finishing up his first grade at Eisenhower. Tomorrow's the last day, so he's pretty excited about that. They are my support system and why I do what I do every day and why I want Wapello County and the state of Iowa to be a better place. Dawson's actually given me my first piece of legislation to work on. He wants recess for every age. So I'm going to be working on that for him. No, I've been really active in my community, whether it's helping make Ottumwa shine, picking up garbage and cigarette butts around town, winning trophies in the 25 Men Who Can Cook for the Ottumwa Symphony Orchestra, or taking kids shopping with our Wapello County Shop with a Cop program that I was in charge of for 7 years. I've always been willing to do those kind of things for our community, and I will continue to do those. I've been involved in the Ottumwa Economic Development Committee, the Ottumwa Chamber of Commerce, Wapello County Emergency Management Commission, the Main Street Ottumwa Board. I'm a member of High Noon Kiwanis. I've been a Wapello County Reserve Deputy and President of the Reserve Organization. I was City Councilman in Ottumwa from 2010 to 2014. I'm currently on the RAGBRAI Committee, the Babe Ruth World Series Committee, and serve as Vice Chair for the River Hills Community Health Center. As a City Councilman, one of the things that I'm most proud of, and I know Brian Morgan mentioned this a little bit earlier, is my responsiveness to citizens and the concerns that they have, and I address those. And we, talking about infrastructure, we spent almost $15 million in the 4 years I was on council, and that's more than the 10 to 12 years before that combined. So I don't have a problem tackling issues that the citizens bring before me.
Thank you.
All right, our first question is submitted by Mark Rowe. On April 1st, Iowa Medicaid transitioned to a privatized MCO system that will negatively impact 575,000 Iowans. What will you do to combat this, given the fact that the current legislature has done little to fight it? Again, what will you do to combat this, given the fact that the current legislature has done little to fight it?
I think we'll begin with Mr. Weller.
Okay. Good question. I want to get rid of privatization about as bad as Republicans want to get rid of Obamacare. The small businesses are the ones that I've spoke to quite often. And as a board member on the River Hills board, I've seen how these small businesses aren't getting paid. There's a lot of them that this went into effect April 1st, and there's businesses that have not been paid a dime. And I worry about the small businesses, the small clinics, organizations. I know Mark submitted this and he works at Tinco. Those organizations that have to make up for and carry this fund balance. And if they don't have a fund balance to work them through the month or 2 or 3 months that they're not getting paid, I'm worried that we're going to lose providers, especially small business. Now, I talked to some folks yesterday, and the citizens seem to be getting the help they need. It's the businesses that aren't being reimbursed right now for those services.
Mary?
Thank you. Well, I had a meeting with some of the constituents and also the providers, and took in the information and was able to help them solve some of those problems. The problem that we have, first of all, I was not for the privatization, fought it as hard as I could fight it up there, but we don't have the majority in the governor's office either, so it's really difficult. You just do all that you can possibly do, and I'm truly concerned, and we have to have oversight. We have to continue to have oversight. I plan to have public meetings about it so that I can keep well informed as to what is happening in this district. And with that, I think we have to have public input. We have to know what you people have to tell us what's happening, because we don't get that information up there. So thank you.
All right, the next question was submitted by Corey Black for the representative race. What do you feel makes you the better choice, and what are your plans to improve Southeast Iowa? Again, what do you feel makes you the better choice, and what are your plans to improve Southeast Iowa?
Mary, you may begin.
Thank you. And thank you, Corey, for the question. Well, I've had the experience with county auditor. I've had 14 years of experience up at the State House. I'm on the Economic Growth Committee. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee. I was on Natural Resources Committee. I've been on a lot of state committees. I know a lot of people and am willing to work with them to solve problems. I need help from the residents and people of District 81. If they have ideas, I would be glad to take those up there and present them and see what we can do. I think we all need to work together so we can make Wapello County a much better place. And I thank you for the question.
Jeremy?
I've worked in the private sector. I've worked for government. Currently own my own small business. I bring an array of different angles to this position. And I think that we have to work with IDED, the Iowa Department of Economic Development. We have to strengthen our relationships at the state level. I know in my time on the Ottumwa Economic Development, those relationships weren't there. We didn't have the relationship with the state, so that when the state gets somebody, a potential business coming to them saying, hey, we need this type of building, we need this type of land, we didn't have the resources put together in that relationship to where we were the first ones called. I think we have to just work together. my different angles from my different experiences in my life will help guide me, and being responsible to the citizens. And like Mary said, taking the information I get through public meetings that I'll hold in each of my incorporated cities after I'm elected. I'll take that information to the state and try to get things done for Wapello County.
This question was submitted by Lisa Smith. What will you do to change the mental health funding formula to benefit the county? Again, what will you do to change the mental health funding formula to benefit the county?
Jeremy, you may begin.
Okay, so I'm not real familiar with how the formula is set up. I do know that in my experience as a Wapello County jail administrator, having worked for the county for 10 years, mental health is a priority of mine. I've seen too many times people sitting in jail. They just need mental health services. The governor closed 2 facilities last year. Mental health wasn't even a priority according to the Des Moines Register after several legislators were polled before the session started this year. Mental health funding is something, mental health isn't going away. We have to find a way to fund it, whether it's through new revenues, new taxes, as far as maybe we legalize fireworks and we can take a portion of that revenue and dedicate it to mental health. And we need to let the counties figure out what they need to do with the mental health budget. We need to give them the money and let them decide. I don't want the state deciding for the counties. They know what's best for the citizens.
Mary?
Yes. Well, I was against the reorganization of the mental health. I thought that the counties did a fabulous job of taking care, particularly our county. I knew that they took good care of the citizens, but we're past that, and they took the levies, and Wapello County had always done a good job, but they decided that they couldn't have the levy. It was 47.28, I believe, and they have messed around with that levy. They added that this last year, they just pushed it ahead, didn't tell the counties what, they just approved it for one more year and saying that they were going to work on it, but I haven't seen any evidence that they're working on making that more just better for people and better particularly for our county, because I think we really lost out.
The next question was submitted by Trudy Cavanis. What is your position on all the sanctuary counties in Iowa, including Wapello County? Again, what is your position on all the sanctuary counties in Iowa, including Wapello County?
Mary, you may begin.
Thank you. Well, I leave that up to the sheriffs in the county, and it's their decision to make, and I don't have a plan to change that. It's a local decision.
Jeremy?
First of all, we're not a sanctuary city. I worked at the sheriff's office for 10 years. I was the jail administrator for 7. I can not tell you how many people that I ran through ICE or INS at that time. And you can't get the federal government to take them even if you call them. Okay, so we're not a sanctuary city. The problem's at the federal level. They don't have the funding, the resources to come and take away illegal immigrants. Unless they were convicted or charged with a very violent crime, they told us not to even call because they weren't interested. Or if they were deported before, coming back in was a federal felony, a felony at the federal level, then they would deport them. But, I had a guy from ICE that I talked to out of Omaha, and he said, listen, if I wanted to deport illegals, I would just walk across the street and break a window at the apartment complex across the road, and I could get as many as I wanted. The problem is at the federal level. Believe me, we've tried to get people deported, especially violent offenders, and they just won't do it. It's not our issue.
All right, the next question was submitted by Bob Myers, and it's phrased differently based on the different positions you're coming at this election from. And we're starting with Jeremy on this one, right?
Correct.
All right, Jeremy, will you be able to work in a bipartisan way or with a bipartisan legislature? And Mary, in what ways have you worked in a bipartisan way? Again, Jeremy, will you be able to work in a bipartisan way or with a bipartisan legislature? And Mary, in what ways have you worked in a bipartisan way?
You begin, Jeremy.
Okay, absolutely. I can work in a bipartisan way. I was on city council. It's a nonpartisan position. I had to work with Republicans and independents and Democrats alike. Now, sometimes we most certainly stood on different sides of an issue, but at the end of the day, I felt that we could usually work something out and move forward. Working in a nonpartisan or a partisan effort is what we need. It's what's hurting our country at the federal level, and it's filtered down to the state level. Thank God it's not at the county level. But we see some of the same partisanship at the state level that we see at the federal level, and it's got to stop if we want to move things forward. The Democratic Party, the Iowa Democratic Party is the party that I'm representing, but they're the ones sending mailers out in support of my candidate and paying for them. They haven't returned my phone call yet to tell me why they're doing that, but so yeah, most certainly. I think that they have money invested in Mary, and that's why they want her back in. They know that I will work in a bipartisan effort.
Mary?
Thank you. Well, I do work in a bipartisan way, particularly examples are when I was chair of local government, I worked with Jeff Kaufman, who is now the chair of the Republican Party of the state of Iowa. I worked with him on several issues. I sat right behind Representative Tom Sands on the Ways and Means, and we converse occasionally about Ways and Means bills. And I work and am friends with a lot of the Republicans up there, but I am an assistant leader, assistant Democratic minority leader, and my caucus has felt that I had the leadership ability to work with them. So of course, they do see and want me to come back.
All right, the next question was asked or submitted by Denny Swain. What will you do to help reduce the burden on Iowa taxpayers? Again, what will you do to help reduce the burden on Iowa taxpayers?
Mary, you may begin.
I'm thinking about, okay, so we worked with the state uses sales tax and income tax and corporation taxes to operate. And the information that I have is that we're pretty normal as far as taxation for the people of the state of Iowa as far as those taxes are concerned. As we've talked many times in the problem with the income, and when you get into a problem such as we did in 2008 when there was a reduction, we have to be careful as the state of Iowa to keep money in our savings accounts, because if we hadn't had those back at that time, we would have been in serious trouble. So we have to be careful if we reduce taxation that we're able to have some kind of growth along with that, so that we get growth along with the reduction. And that's what we work on in Ways and Means.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just looking up some notes here. So the whole privatization of Medicaid saved us approximately $300,000 a day, millions of dollars. What'd they do? They went out and spent it. They spent it before, they appropriated it before it even went into effect on April 1st.
Okay, our state fund balance 4 years ago was approximately 930 million, and this year it's under 200 million. We have a spending problem, for one. We need to look at programs that aren't making the grade. I've talked to people about mental health court. Mental health court is a great idea and it's a great concept, but it's almost impossible to implement. Folks are just in too serious need of help for the same effect that maybe somebody gets through drug court. So we definitely have to look at that. One of the things I'm out of time.
All right, the next question was submitted by Nick Davis at KBIZ. What do you feel is the most important function of the elected position you are campaigning for? Again, what do you feel is the most important function of the elected position you are campaigning for?
Jeremy, you may begin.
Boy, what's the most important? So that's like one. There's so many important parts of what a legislator does. You know, we're responsible for laws and taxes and spending. I think the taxes is probably the taxes and spending, making sure we have the income coming in, the economic development. It's a vicious circle how all that stuff ties in together. You do one thing here and it affects everything, and it comes back to, it's just a vicious circle. So I think that the spending obviously needs to be addressed. Education funding is something that I'll talk about a little later in my closing, but that's something that desperately needs looked at and some reform done to how we appropriate per student. And it's broke out over universities and community colleges and K-12. So,
Mary?
Well, the first most important thing is to listen to constituents and at least if you can't help them, seek to find help. I get calls from people all the time and I have to help them find that. Then education funding is the most important thing that we do, and I'm very disappointed in what's been happening up there in the last few years in the reduction of education funding. And where our kids are our future, and we're shortchanging them. And I'm very disappointed about that. So I will be working, that's one of my things I was going to talk about at the end, is that I'm going to be working very hard to get education funding. We may have to shift some of our priorities. Our first priority should be our children and their education.
All right, I'm about to read the last question that I have submitted. So if anybody in the audience would like to submit any questions while they're answering this one, please feel free and bring them to the front. This one is again from Denny Swaim. What are your views on repealing the ban on allowing parents to have their minor children target practice with handguns under the parent's supervision? Again, what are your views on repealing the ban on allowing parents to have their minor children target practice with handguns under the parent's supervision?
Mary?
Yes,
Mary,
I
you
thought
can
that,
begin.
yeah, I thought that bill passed. I thought that we had it. I voted against it as 14 years of age was the ban, that kids couldn't deal with guns under the 14 years of age. And I kept thinking about that, and geez, we don't allow them to drive a vehicle, but we wanted to allow them to have a gun. I would have considered younger age, but that wasn't allowed. They didn't want amendments to that effect. So I voted against that, and I would be willing to consider a bill for 7 or 8 years of age.
Jeremy?
I would at this time not support a repeal of that. I got asked a very similar question last week by the Courier during our editorial board interview. We live in a rural area where kids go hunting with with family members, and they're taught to shoot shotguns and rifles at a young age. And we currently, I don't know how many people know this, I just found out a month ago when they did a presentation at our Kiwanis, but we have a trap shooting team here now for our high school, and they're starting one at the junior high level. And the participation for that program is unbelievable. It's double of what we have going out for football. These kids, you know, if we need to teach them in a safe manner, and so I guess I wouldn't vote to repeal that.
Do we have any other questions? Last call.
Oh, there's one on that side. Okay, this was submitted by Steve Siegel. In 2014, Iowa adopted a large commercial property tax cut that changed multi-residential taxes for commercial and residential. What impact has this have on education fund balances, local government, and economic development? Again, he's referring to the commercial property tax cut and multi-residential tax that were eliminated from that. What impact did this have on education fund balances, local government, and economic development?
Jeremy, you get to begin.
Great. Good question. When I was on city council, this was something that was talked about for several years. And it didn't go into effect until I was after I was off council. It's huge. That's why we don't have, that's why budget revenues for the state of Iowa were less than projected. Now, if you lived in Waukee, West Des Moines, Ames, Iowa City, those commercial tax rollback, that was probably a pretty good deal for some of those big businesses in the bigger cities. Not so much for our local budgets. It impacts everything. It's been 2 years. I don't know that we've seen an economic impact in Wapello County because of it, and we won't. If you want to talk about repealing something, that's maybe something we should look at.
Mary?
Yes, thank you. And I did vote for that property tax bill. It was the only one that I would even consider. For years I'd been voting against them. But the whole purpose of that was that the cities and the counties would be able, they said that it would bring in businesses, that business people would come and we would get more revenue because of that the cities and the counties would. So my proposal is that we have a study of that and just see how it's working. And if it's not working, then we should repeal it.
And a deadly silence fell on the crowd. If there are no more questions, each of the candidates will make their 2-minute closing statement. I think we'll begin with Jeremy because Mary began at the beginning.
All right, thank you. Thank you again to the league and the media that showed up here tonight in giving us this platform to speak about issues important to Wapello County, state of Iowa, and the citizens. Like I said earlier, I've worked in the private sector, I've worked for government, and owned my own business. And I believe that there's two types of people. There's followers and leaders, and I'm a leader. Wapello County hasn't had a leader at the State House for many years. I don't fall in line necessarily with just what the party wants. I will represent all citizens of Wapello County, regardless of what party you may or may not belong to. That's not important to me. My priorities are mental health, education, and infrastructure. Education funding is needing reform. We currently give the universities in Iowa $10,000 per student. We give our K-12 $6,400, and we give our community colleges $2,300 per student. The community colleges, like Indian Hills, are taking on so many programs that are being cut in our high schools, our trades programs, our metals, welding, and yet they're putting those programs together at Indian Hills, and kudos to them for doing it. They're filling a void that's left because K-12 education isn't funded properly. Now, if you look at the reserve balance in the 2015 audit for the University of Iowa, they have $3.6 billion in their account. $3.6 billion. And here we are fighting over 0.5% last year, whether we should give it to K-12 education or not. $3.6 billion is a lot. They netted an extra $280 million last year, and it was about the same for the 2 years before that. You can look that up online. That tells me that they would do okay if we took some from them and gave it to the community colleges and funded our K-12 at a level that it should be. The days of coming back from legislative session and saying that you didn't support it or didn't vote for it, those times are over. There's strength in numbers. The Golden Corridor of 80 has gotten a lot of stuff at the expense of small cities and rural areas like us. And I will be the leader that this county needs to move us forward and have a good voice at the state of Iowa again. I hope to get your support on June 7th.
Mary?
Thank you. Well, I just want you to know some of the things that I plan to do. I plan to work to raise the minimum wage. I think that people working 40 hours a week should not have to live in poverty, and that is happening. I work for equal pay and equal work for women. They do their job, they should have equal pay if they're doing the same job. I plan to stay on the State Commission on Aging and work through those issues. With this last year, we did pass a bill that would help the seniors in nursing homes. I'll listen to the people and then do what is best for the people of Wapello County. We must provide oversight for this dangerous privatization that has happened for the Medicaid people. I see this getting worse and worse. Because the MCOs that are doing this work are planning to go bigger and bigger and that business is going to go away from the state of Iowa, and the money's going to go other places, rather than being here in the state of Iowa and have people working here. It was a bad decision, and I hope we can turn it around. And then I already have been working to make Iowa a leader in renewable energy. We've worked very hard to get that done, and we continue to do that. We had solar energy credits and all of those things, and wind energy credits, so that we could get to be the leader in this United States as far as renewable energy. And I want to ask for your vote on November 7th. I believe I have provided leadership, and I will continue to do that at the State House as your representative.
Thank you, Mary. We will now have some closing remarks from our president.
League appreciates everyone who has participated this evening, either in the audience or on the business end of the microphones. The election is next Tuesday, June 7th. You may request an absentee ballot, or you can vote at the auditor's office, including on Saturday, right? From 8 to 4, Saturday. Both are responsible ways to discharge your civic duties and save you time if you want to do it on a Saturday or get your absentee ballot in. You're also welcome to stay and visit with any or all of these candidates before you leave the chambers tonight until Tom kicks us out. And I would ask that you all travel safely to your homes, and thank you very much for coming. And thank you, guys.